Leah, the woman Jacob never chose. We have sat with Sarah, the woman who waited 90 years for a promise. We sat with Hagar, the woman God saw when no one else did. Today we open a new diary. This woman's story begins not in a desert, not beside a river, but in a household where two sisters grew up in the same tent, and one of them was always going to be chosen first. Her name was Leah. The Bible describes her in a single devastating sentence. It says, "Her sister Rachel was beautiful in form and appearance." And then it says, almost as an afterthought, that Leah had weak eyes. Weak eyes. That is all the introduction she gets. Weak eyes, as if it were the sum of her. But Leah was the mother of 6 of the 12 tribes of Israel. She was the mother of Levi, from whom every priest in Israel descended. She was the mother of Judah, from whose line centuries later a child would be born in Bethlehem who would change the entire world. Leah did not know any of that yet. All she knew, growing up in her father's house, was that her sister was beautiful and that she was not. Weak eyes. This is her diary. The scripture entries are grounded in Genesis. The imagined sections are framed honestly as possibilities. The soul behind the silence. This is Leah's story. Entry 1. Growing up in Laban's house. Imagined backstory before Genesis 29. Perhaps I always knew. Perhaps it is one of those things a girl understands before she has words for it. The way a room shifts when your sister walks in, the way your father's face changes, the way visitors' eyes move past you and find her. Rachel was 2 years younger than me, and from the time she could walk, she was the one people looked at. I would be fair. She was not cruel about it. She did not try to outshine me. She simply was what she was. Radiant and easy and full of laughter, and I was what I was. Leah, the older one, the one with the weak eyes. I have thought about those words my whole life. Weak eyes. The scholars argue about what it means. Some say my eyes were tender, soft, without the spark that draws a man's gaze. Some say they were simply pale, or perhaps to damage. Whatever the cause, the effect was the same. When men came to our father's house, they looked at Rachel. I learned early to be useful instead of beautiful. I learned to run a household, to manage servants, to keep accounts, to cook a meal that made people close their eyes in pleasure. I learned to listen well and to speak carefully. I became, in every practical sense, the more capable daughter. It did not matter. My father Laban was a man who understood the value of things, and he understood with the cold clarity of a merchant that Rachel was the valuable one. I was the one he would have to work harder to place. Perhaps that is why he did what he did. Perhaps I should have seen it coming. I did not. Entry 2. The arrival of Jacob. Imagined. Genesis 29, 1-20. I remember the morning Jacob arrived. He arrived at the well like something out of a story. Jacob, son of Isaac, grandson of Abraham. He had come from Canaan, running, though he did not say so at first. Running from his brother Esau, whose birthright he had stolen and whose blessing he had taken through deception. He did not know then that he had run straight into the house of a man who would outdeceive him entirely. My father Laban. I watched him from a distance the day he arrived. He was strong and quick-eyed and full of a restless energy that I recognized immediately as the energy of a man carrying something heavy. He rolled the stone from the well for Rachel single-handedly. He wept when he saw her. He kissed her. I stood a little apart and watched my sister's face light up the way it always did. Jacob stayed with us. He worked for my father. And every day I watched him watch Rachel across the camp with the particular attention of a man who has decided on something and will not be moved. He never looked at me that way. I will not pretend it did not hurt. It did. Imagine growing up in the same house as the person everyone chooses. Imagine watching someone fall in love with your sister so completely that you become, in his eyes, simply a part of the landscape. I was kind to Jacob. I was helpful and warm, and I made sure his meals were good and his tent was comfortable. He thanked me the way you thank furniture. After a month, my father asked Jacob what his wages should be. Jacob said, "I will work 7 years for Rachel." 7 years. My father immediately agreed. No one asked what I thought. Entry number 3, the wedding night. Genesis 29:21-25. Now I need to write this down exactly as it happened. Not because I'm proud of it, not because I have made peace with it, but because the truth deserves to be told even when it is complicated. When the 7 years were complete, Jacob went to my father and said, "Give me my wife." My father held a huge feast, and that night, in the dark, beneath the veil that covered everything, my father brought me to Jacob instead of Rachel. I knew it. I knew what my father was doing, and I knew what it would mean. I knew that Jacob believed I was Rachel. I knew that when morning came, everything would break open. Did I have a choice? Let me be honest. Legally, culturally, practically, no, I had no choice. My father was Laban. His word was law in that household. If he told me to put on a veil and walk into that tent, I walked. But I will also tell you this. I am not proud of it, but I will not be about it either. Part of me hoped. Part of me, the part that had watched Jacob for 7 years from a careful distance, the part that had learned everything about him while he looked only at my sister. Part of me hoped that one night might be enough, that he might turn toward me in the dark and find something worth keeping. Alas, morning came. Jacob looked at me, and I watched his face go through every stage of the thing. Confusion, then realization, then a fury so cold and complete that I understood immediately. I was not what he wanted. I was never what he wanted. I was never what anyone wanted. He went to my father. He said, "What have you done to me?" My father replied, "It is not our custom to give the younger before the firstborn." My father used me to hide behind a tradition. Jacob agreed because he had no choice, and he said he would work another 7 years for Rachel. And I became the first wife of a man who loved my sister. Leah's name meant something tender. Her eyes are called weak, and her husband had just looked at her face for the first time and wished she was someone else. Leah walked out of that tent that morning carrying something no one had put down in front of her. She carried it anyway. Next time, Leah starts naming her sons, and every single name is a prayer. Some of them will break your heart. One of them will change the world. Subscribe. Her story is just beginning. We'll meet you next time in the Diary of Leah, a Biblical Woman.